Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers. Every Monday, I sit down to talk about recently watched movies with my dear friend and artist, Danny Haas.
The cinematography in this film, the music and the shots of, am I becoming a cowboy?
And our spiritual advisor, part Alexis.
That they can't find a writer on this whole planet better than Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau, he needs to be let out to pasture, okay?
Later in this episode, we're talking about Brokeback Mountain, starring Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. Is it the greatest cowboy love story ever told? It's time to settle this now. Should we talk about the big news this week?
Let's talk about it.
It might be spoiler territory, but there's been a lot of buzz going online. Danny has muted Discord channels to refuse talking about it, but
you're putting me on
the Book of Boba Fett.
My gosh, dude.
Came out. A lot of people are talking about these last two episodes. If anyone wants to skip ahead, they don't want to hear us not even talk about spoilers, use the chapters, okay? You can fast forward.
I can't believe you're putting me on the spot.
Let's get into it, Proto. What did you think of the most recent two episodes of the Book of Boba Fett?
They were easily the best episodes. I think we can all agree. Getting to see the Mandalorian, Din Din, whatever the heck his name is. He was great. He, you know.
Let it out, Proto. This is a safe space.
Don't look at the
It's just
Discord.
us three and thousands of other people.
Pedro Pascal, he's looking like Laurence Olivier after we're dealing with Tempura Morrison for 4 weeks. We're dealing, I'm workshopping titles,
It's good.
Should they have called this the Book of Poopy Pants? These first 4 episodes are so bad. I just can't believe that they can't find a writer on this whole planet better than Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau, he needs to be let out to pasture, okay? I know we're talking about the most recent eps, but I just had to get that off my chest.
Right.
Anyway, this last episode, it's really great where we're headed. That's all I have to say. If we're mixing in these kind of characters, I'm on board.
Danny, are you comfortable revealing your opinion, or are we still going to keep it close to the vest for these 2 episodes here?
For the last 2 episodes, my opinion is they're very good.
Quote, very good.
They're
from
very
Danny.
Good. The most recent one, I was, I think I said to you on Apex YouTube, both of you actually, that this might be top tier Star Wars media that I've seen in a while. At the end of Mandalorian, the Luke deepfake was fine. I liked it. I liked that Luke was a part of it. I liked that they had Hamill's face, etc. But I was still on the fence of them why not just recast the character?
Yeah.
But the CG in this Boba Fett, I couldn't believe how good this was. It scared me actually how perfect of Mark it was. I think there's bits that are off, but it's CG, so it's always going to be a little bit wonky. But I was moved to see Luke on screen again. It's impressive, like really impressive. Now,
let it out.
I don't know what we're supposed to do with Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka.
All I can say is no comment.
So that's all I'll say for now. But this episode, I haven't minded this whole season. It's been fine. I don't mind a different take on Boba. It's a little bit boring, but visually it's fun to watch. Those last 2 episodes have been incredible, but it's dealing with some incredible content.
Can you imagine, like we're kids watching Star Wars, we're in the theater seeing the special editions, and then like future selves of us say like, hey, guess what? When you're older, there's going to be a live action Boba Fett series, and it's going to be boring as hell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing about this. Like that's what Disney has figured out, is that they don't need to have good writing because like the design of the stuff, the CGI, the world, the practical effects that they have in this, all the creatures, the droids, any little thing, like we're all eating that up, right? Anytime they show like a droid of any kind, eating it up. The ship. I mean, Mando's new ship.
The M1, baby.
That Naboo fighter, like, come on. That's
Come
amazing.
off it.
Kiss me.
Come
Gorgeous.
off it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm very excited to see where these next couple episodes go. I don't remember how many's left for this season, but
No idea.
Also this makes me like incredibly excited for Obi-Wan. It hurts how excited I am for Obi-Wan.
I heard that's coming out in May. You heard those whispers? I heard May.
No comment.
I heard May. I was on the subreddit. I think Star Wars subreddit. People were talking. Okay.
May.
It's exciting.
Right,
I mean,
can you imagine also, maybe last thing I'll say about Luke, maybe the Luke series we get's live action, maybe he has a beard and maybe they're more comfortable recasting at that point. Sebastian Stan, bearded Luke.
I mean, I think if they're going to do a Luke series, it would need to be recast.
There's no way they're going to have a CGI main character, right? That's insane.
Yeah, it seems like a ton of work.
Listen, Kurt's in chat suggests Chunk from the Goonies as American hero Chunk.
The thing that excites me the most about Obi-Wan is we know the acting chops of Ewan. So it's
true.
It's exciting to know that we're going to have some top tier acting on top of in our Star Wars again. So I'm very excited about him.
I also want Timothy Oliphant's hair investigated by the FDA because there's something illegal is happening on that head, and I want a piece of it.
I want all of it.
Normally we announce next week's movie.
Oh, we're going right in. Let's do this
at the end of the show. Okay, this episode is jam packed. We got a lot of things cooking, a lot of things in the burners, podcast burners. But we were DMing with some friends of ours.
Dear friends.
At Movies Anywhere. Danny, do you use Movies Anywhere?
I just used it to watch The Color of Money for our council pick. And I'm always in awe of the power of Movies Anywhere.
I can't believe Movies Anywhere is a thing that exists. I remember, I think every month we explain to Ian, former producer of the show, what
he doesn't get
is possible with Movies Anywhere, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't think it's real.
Yeah.
So if you haven't used it, you can, if you buy movies on Apple TV, Prime, you have them like all different places, you can use Movies Anywhere and just watch all your movies in one place. You just have one library with Movies Anywhere. So we were chatting with our friends at Movies Anywhere, and we were wondering, how can we go big for Valentine's Day? How can we go bigger than we have before? So they're actually giving a bundle of 4 movies for us to give out to our friends in live chat tonight. One bundle this week for the best comment of the week. And the 4 movies included in there. Let me just recite some of these movies you'll get for free.
Read them.
Brokeback Mountain is in there, which we're covering tonight. P.S. I Love You.
Excuse me.
One of Danny's favorites.
Never seen it.
Hilary Swank. Love Actually is also going to be in that bundle for free.
Cult classic.
And I hope everyone is sitting down. I hope they have their socks on for our movie next week, which is also included in this bundle. We will be covering for Valentine's Day, The Notebook next week.
The Notebook.
So that's included. So best comment in live chat gets the bundle. You redeem these movies, they will appear in Prime, etc. Or you can just read all in Movies Anywhere. The digital code can be redeemed on Movies Anywhere only. This is my legalese portion of the show. Registration with Movies Anywhere required. Open to U.S. residents 13 and up, so my son is not allowed to participate. Download the free Movies Anywhere app or visit moviesanywhere.com to redeem your code. So The Notebook. I have not seen The Notebook ever.
Ever?
No.
I think I've only seen it once, actually. And it is exciting that we are doing back-to-back MTV Award Best Kiss winners, Brokeback and Notebook. 2005, 2006 reigning champs.
Cheers.
Casey in chat is asking who's the judge. Should we make Casey the judge or should we be the judge of the comment of the night? That means Casey has to stick around if we make her the judge. She has to stay the whole
time. She's not going to do that.
So Sad White Boy returns next week for The Notebook. Very excited.
Our king, Sad White Boy.
Proto's boy. So we'll give away that code later in the show. Proto, did you watch any movies this week?
I did get around to watching a movie or two. I watched Ridley Scott's movie from 2021, The Last Duel.
Oh,
you like it?
Because, I gave it 4 stars. It showed up on HBO Max. Love HBO Max. And I was looking at it and I saw, oh man, I've watched a lot of long movies recently.
You need a break.
Like, it's 2.5 hours long. I'm like, do I? Oh. So I kept putting it off. And then I finally put it on. And I was planning only to watch like an hour of it one night, but I stayed up till 12:30 and watched the whole thing, the whole dang thing.
Unreal.
Because I just was having a great time. So it's set in, I think it's the 14th century. It's like, I think 1386, and it centers around, it's in France, and it centers around, I guess, what is historically supposed to be like the last official duel that happens, and it's between two noblemen, or a knight and a squire. One accuses the other of a crime, and then they have a duel to the death. And what's cool about it is it's one of these movies where it actually, you see the movie kind of like 3 times because you get it from 3 different perspectives. And there's been a few movies like that. I don't know if you guys remember that movie Vantage Point.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, it came out, I don't know when it came out, but there's a few movies that have tried this where they just show you from different perspectives. And the ones I've seen have never worked, but I found this very compelling. I thought the performances were great. Adam Driver, Matt Damon, and then Jodie Comer in this movie. I'd never seen her in anything, but she just blew my socks right off. Amazing. And then, of course, you get the Ridley Scott action. Like if you've seen Gladiator, what was I? 16 10. Watching Gladiator for the first time, or we had 10 years old. My mind was blown with the combat in this. And this harkens back to that. It felt very Gladiator-esque. And I was just like, oh, yeah. We're in the dirt. We're two-handing the sword, popping guys in the face. It's great.
Is this the one with Matt Damon with the fro hair, the fro mullet?
The mullet. I thought you saw it, Slim.
No, I've only seen the photos of his hair matching that annoying idiot from Raised by Wolves.
Raised by Wolves, that's right. Ugh.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, it does have some pretty rough stuff centered around sexual assault. So I think if that is, tough for anybody, I would, maybe pump the brakes or just read a bit about it, because there are some really rough scenes in this movie. But overall, I really loved it.
Ben Affleck's goatee is disgusting. Paul just posted a photo of it. I don't even know what to think.
That. Paul's been disqualified from the Movies Anywhere award.
Paul is the first one to drop.
Disqualified.
Early in the night.
That goatee.
No Notebook and Brokeback for Paul. Sorry. He is not happy in chat. Cripes. Anything else, Pro, that you wanted to spotlight? Black Narcissus.
Yeah,
Can you
Black
watch that?
Narcissus. Yeah, so this was the guys who did the Red Shoes, who were the Pressburger and Powell. So this has been on my watch list for a long time. It's from 1947, so I guess it actually came out before the Red Shoes. And I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't really like blown away by it. I thought it was good. Some neat stuff in there. But that was the other movie I watched. I don't have much to say about it.
Okay. No, you don't have to. This is we're fine with that. Danny, did you watch any movies this week?
I watched one. that I disliked quite a bit because it was very boring and was 155 minutes long. 1993's Sidney Pollack's The Firm.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie
Poor Tom.
was rough. I mean, the cast alone in this film had me pretty excited. You have Tom, Gene Hackman, Gene Triplehorn, Wilford Brimley, Ed Harris, Holly Hunter, Gary Busey. And it's boring. Like all those people in this film, and it's a boring film. Tom is solid in it. He's better in it than he is in The Color of Money, which is
Spoilers.
Not saying much. But that's all I watched this week leading up to this week.
Gene Hackman. Where did we go wrong with Gene in The Firm? Very disappointing.
Oh my gosh.
We should say hello to some new patrons, new friends of ours who joined at 70mmpod.com. Get access to episodes early, uncut eps. We just dropped our Goblet of Fire app, and our Color of Money app will be coming out potentially when this episode drops. Stay tuned. So there's 24 episodes now.
Sheesh.
In the vault, only for supporters on Patreon and Apple and Spotify. But those new friends are Swamp Preacher, Colin, Max, and Josh. All joined this week. So thank you for your support. Do I want to talk about a movie?
Please.
Let me check my diary here. I watched The Last Castle. You heard about this? Robert Redford?
I've heard of it.
Oh,
The Wig, they call him now. 2001. So any movie that came out in like 2001, that was when I was taking them home from West Coast Video. Vanilla Sky was a big one back then too. But Robert Redford plays a court-martialed general who goes into like a military prison for, I think, like listening to an order that got a bunch of men killed. Defying an order. And James Gandolfini plays the guy running the prison. Mark Ruffalo is also in it. Delroy Lindo plays another general, Robin Wright. So pretty great cast. And he's kind of just there to serve his time and go home afterward. But there are some illegal activities happening at this prison, namely murder. And the soldiers that are in there, well, the former soldiers are trying to like ask him for help. And he's like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm retired. I'm not a general anymore. And then eventually he decides that maybe it's time to take a stand. And it's probably not a 4-star movie in terms of quality. It's a 4-star movie to me. But I had a lot of fun rewatching this. I have the VHS of it as well. And Redford looks amazing in it. Let me see what I say. I Googled his age. I think he was 60 maybe. Yeah, in his 60s during filming. And he's in better shape than I am. Makes me freaking sick.
Yeah.
Enough.
God.
So Last Castle I watched. That's on Hulu. We should also say The Notebook is on HBO Max too for next week. So if anyone wants to watch along. I watched a lot of old dude movies. I watched In the Line of Fire, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't waste.
Are you going to watch all these Jackass movies before you watch the new one?
I do want to watch 3 before I see Forever. I watched 2.
I feel like I didn't see 3. I think I only saw 1 and 2.
I watched 2 today while I was working, so I didn't give it a star rating. I was kind of distracted. 2 is not as good as the first one, in my opinion. There's still a lot of great scenes in it, but everyone is shredded in that movie. Another movie where all these dudes are in great shape. I don't know if they were on something or what, but I'll be watching 3 before Forever. I think former producer of this show is at the theater right now seeing Jackass Forever. Ian. God bless him. Should we talk about the movie?
It's time.
The big one. This week. Brokeback Mountain. Ang Lee. 2005. We chose this together. We thought, maybe we need to go big for these movies for Valentine's Day weeks. And these are at the top of the list for a lot of people, so why not? Pardo, what is Brokeback Mountain?
In 1963 Wyoming, Ennis Delmar and Jack Twist are paired to herd sheep on the slopes of Brokeback Mountain. As the months pass, a friendship grows, and one fateful night, it grows into a romance. But when their time on Brokeback ends, so does their time together. 4 years pass before meeting again, and in that time, they both start families and try to move on from one another. But their forbidden love is rekindled and kept alive year after year as they escape on trips to nowhere. As their lives unfold, they are haunted by what they could have had and never forget what they did have on Brokeback Mountain.
I'm going to be playing the guitar. Record myself playing guitar during the intro. It's going to be me. Now, Proto, you had mentioned in Discord that there was a short story. Did you read the short story ahead of recording?
I did. Yeah, I did read it.
How was it?
It's fantastic. It's really, really good. So it's written by, I think her name is Annie Pro, and it just has such like incredible style. The way she writes it, she does like a lot of unconventional things as well, like the way she writes like dialogue. It's not as in the moment. It's almost in some ways like she's retelling this story for these characters at different parts, but it's very grounded and feels very much authentic in terms of like what this life is like living in Wyoming or Texas and being a cowboy or a ranch hand and herding, because like just the lingo and the jargon that she uses feels very, I mean, it was like terms I've never heard of, and just the way they talk and the phrases they use. So I think it's great. It was originally published in 1997, I think in the New Yorker. So if you just Google it, you can find it online and you can read it on their website. It's only, it takes probably like a half hour to read, but it's a really great story.
Okay. This movie was a big deal when it came out, critical acclaim. Do either one of you have any history with this movie, seeing it in the past? Danny, what about you?
I have seen it in the past. It's been easily a decade, I think, since I've seen it. Other than what felt like controversy around it coming out, I guess mainly in the crowds I was in. I don't know. It just felt like there was more negative about this film coming out that I remember than any sort of positive aspects of the release of a movie like this.
Are you telling me the Baptist Church would be against the movie Brokeback Mountain?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was in a Baptist church at this point. I mean, basically I was. But yeah, that's probably where I heard most of the negativity around. But yes, they would definitely not be for this film.
Pardo, any history with this movie?
I did see it. I don't know when I saw it. I probably a number of years after it came out. But I do remember this movie, just the talk around it and it coming out. I mean, I was still a teenager when this was released, and yeah, I mean, it was like kind of like in the culture, at least to me. Let's just say I remember it being referenced on like Xbox Live chat for certain reasons. So like it was kind of like there, and yeah, it was like a joke in for numerous reasons. But also, yeah, I mean, it was talked about in a lot of different circles. But I think similar to Danny, it was kind of like almost like a taboo movie. Like, growing up in a church, like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to watch Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, I was thinking of how this probably was a movie that I had zero interest in watching when I was younger, whereas Portrait of a Lady on Fire as an adult, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to see this movie. This is getting a lot of buzz. I wasn't in the place to desire to see this movie, in 2005. I was watching Jean-Claude Van Damme filth with like he and a twin or whatever, or he and Dennis Rodman. Those are the movies that I was watching when this came out. So my first note, in this segment of the podcast, we all have the top 3 items that we really want to hit in our discussion that we took away from this viewing, and then we'll give our honorable mentions and our letterbox rating. Kind of like a brief note, I didn't even remember until it happened on screen the "I wish I knew how to quit you" line was from this movie.
You did it?
So I was like, oh, that's right. Like when that line came out, I like slapped my forehead. Because I can't remember. Yeah, I've never seen this movie. It just was never on my radar and no desire to revisit at the time. So when that scene, it like shocked me when it had happened. But my first point is the passage of time overall in this movie. when this starts out, they're together on Brokeback Mountain together, and they have that first night where they're in the tent together and they have sex. And then years and years go by in this story. And I had no idea that was the plot of this movie. The buzz around this week has been like, oh, Slim, you're going to cry. You're going to cry. So I kind of like was thinking like, oh, what's the sad thing that happens in this movie that I forgot about or what? So I kind of had no inclination that they stayed in their marriages or separately for decades and would just meet, a couple times a year over the years. So that one was really like I struggled with. I just felt like the whole viewing and most of my post viewing of this was just living like that for decades and keeping that inside and being unable to live fully it didn't really like impact me while I was watching it, but like after, and I was like writing my notes, it's just so like unreal. Like that kind of yearning and loneliness is just like crushing to me.
Yeah, it like puts a rock in your stomach just thinking about it. And just like the way that the performances communicate that, especially Heath Ledger. Just considering the passage of time and what they went through and just how you get kind of like bullet point highlights of different milestones in their life and just considering that, and then at the end where they kind of have that fight, where they see each other for what, I don't know if that was the last time or not, but, and just, Jack Twist, Jake Gyllenhaal's character just communicating like, it's been like this forever. It's like 20 years have passed at this point, and it's just once or twice a year that they see each other. And now it's going to be even less, for different reasons. It's tough.
I think one of the things about the passing of time that I like, because it is very hard it's hard to grasp it because they don't do a lot of aging of Jake and Heath. There's just a bit of wrinkles added and the beards and for Jake, but the aging of Heath's children, I thought was a smart way to show the passage of time, the different kind of decades of his daughters. I thought was kind of smart, very smart for this because of how fast this movie moves through 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even in that last scene where Jake says, where Heath asks him like, "Oh, you have a better idea than us seeing each other more than twice a year?" And
I'll tell you this: I can't quit this one. And I can't get the time off. It's hard enough getting this time. The trade-off is August. You got a better idea?
I did once.
You did once.
And where he said no to them, like living together. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, pre-marriages at that point too, where they didn't have connections.
Mm-hmm. They had the chance. But I mean, also Heath's reasoning for not is like 100% sound. He tells that story about how his dad showed what the locals did to a rumored gay man in the desert. Like, I would be scared shitless too at that point.
I mean, at that point, it's 1963. So 62 was the first time ever, I think it only in Illinois, was it decriminalized sodomy. So even the thought of these men being together, it's still a criminal offense in all the other states.
Pardo, what's number one on your list?
Number one for me really is Heath Ledger's performance in this. I feel like I'm going to cry talking about it.
Let it out.
I like, that was like my main thought coming out of this. Like, man, we really lost like an amazing actor. Like, he is just so strong and compelling in this movie. Just the sadness that he carries this whole movie, the way he speaks, his mannerisms, but then also like he's a character of such few words, but it like almost doesn't matter because you feel like in his face, you see like this character's whole life being played out. And just how much you like know about him, even from that opening scene of him, just them waiting on the stoop of their boss who's going to like send him out. And at this point they don't know each other. And Ennis, Heath Ledger's character, gets there first and he's just sitting out there and you can just tell like he's like introverted. He keeps to himself, but he's like a real, he's a tough dude as well. I mean, he gets into scraps just for the heck of it to feel something. So he's like this character is like very layered and complex. And it's just amazing how much I thought Heath communicated that.
I was blown away by his performance in this. I mean, his voice, his accent, everything about him was so good in this movie. And you like every time he was on screen. So one of the things I wanted to call out too about his performance was his character. His character, his daughter. Here's one thing that I really wanted that I didn't get in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I've been like grappling if it was like a positive or negative or it was just like real life. I wanted him so much to talk to his daughter about who he was. I was like I might cry now, but like I felt so awful that he could not talk to his daughter about his true self. It was awful. Like I can't stop thinking about it. Like even when I was writing my notes, it's just like this is real life. That like there are people out there that can't be authentic and they are afraid to tell people they love, and it's awful. So that I just really struggled with that part of the movie, for better or worse.
Yeah, and it's interesting because of how much I think it's almost one of my problems with this film is how at the end there is such an emphasis on how his daughter is really connected to him. And I don't feel like they showed it well enough for an ending like we had with the two of them together. Like she really loved him. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see that really growing up in the quick scenes that we got with the two of them, because I mean, he was always running off and leaving them, etc. So I was more surprised that his daughters had any connection to him at all as they got older. Right. And I wish that I had seen a little bit more of a connection with him and at least his oldest, Kate Mara's character. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that moment where he's in his trailer with her talking about the boyfriend, that they're going to get married, come to the wedding. It's like, I would love, I mean, we're at the end of this 2-hour film. So yes, it would have been great for them to have that conversation. This was, I mean, even to tell her about Jake or Jack would have been like a way to like fade out the film. A great way to end it. Yeah. But yeah, I know.
Yeah. Pardon? I think I liked how it ended, because I think, this character, he really is just like a truly tragic character who lives an entire life and is never able to communicate how he feels. The only person who really knew was Jack Twist. And, even with him, he didn't really. It was almost like they had a different kind of connection, like a wordless, like emotional connection through their work and their life that they shared. But even with Jack, like he didn't really talk in like a free way. And I feel like almost like that was like that, the way it ended was just kind of proof that even if Jack was still around, they wouldn't have been together even then, because this character, he's just like, he's incapable of giving himself that or taking that risk. It's just like an immovable object within his life that he can't get beyond. And it's truly tragic. I mean, this movie, it kind of makes me feel awful. Yeah. And there's few movies that that give me that feeling, I think. The other movie that I always think of is Moonlight. This reminded me a lot of Moonlight, just the way I felt after seeing that.
Trainer in chat says, we're talking about him. We want a little bit more with his daughter, but Trainer says the growth was him leaving a job for a new kind of love. Love with his daughter. Danny, what's number one on your list?
number one on my list is actually still talking about Heath. And I just want to piggyback on one of the things Proto said that Heath does great in this film is his silent acting, the way he can sit and be quiet. And when the words do come from him, they're so kind of like punchy and emotional. And because when he finally speaks to someone, it almost feels painful for him to talk to people. And even the people he loves.
Your brother and sister do right by you?
They did the best they could after my folks was gone. Considering they didn't leave us nothing but $24 in a coffee can. I got me a year of high school before the transmission went on the pickup. And then my sis left and made a roughneck, moved to Casper. Me and my brother, we went and got ourselves some work on a ranch up near Warland till I was 19. And then he got married, and no more room for me. And that's how come you'd end up here. What?
Fran, that's more words than you spoke in the past 2 weeks.
Hell, that's the most I've spoken in a year.
It's such a powerful performance. And there's so much that he does physically with his face, his body language, that just made you believe he is tormented. And there's just so much about him that he just lives kind of in pain. So I'll jump to another point. The cinematography in this film, at least the beginning, carried out through all of it, whenever you see them and going to the mountains, but the sheep herding and the music and the shots of like, am I becoming a cowboy?
Do we need to become cowboys right now?
Are we being cowboys? It's just gorgeous. And one of the smart things that Aang, and I don't remember the name of the cinematographer, does is they make the life on Brokeback colorful and beautiful. And when they get to the cities, it's drab and bad to look at. And it's that life that they don't want to be living in. It's, the sadness of Enos's wife, that he is, destroying that marriage and what he's doing to her and his kids. And it's a really crazy juxtaposition to when they're out in the mountains and then when they're back at home.
Rodrigo Prieto was the cinematographer.
Mm-hmm.
Golly. Yeah, one of the odd thoughts that I had was this movie didn't look like it took place in the 60s. Like when they were back in the town, I was like, this is present day, my friend.
Yeah.
There is nothing dated about what I'm seeing right now.
Besides the cars.
Yeah.
So that was an odd note.
I thought their clothing just looked way too clean. Like if you're out herding sheep for months on end, you are not looking this fresh.
I'm sorry, Aang, they still sell that Carhartt jacket in the stores now.
Yeah, I love seeing the Dickies logo on one of his coats or pants that he was wearing too. I saw that. Let's see. Whose turn is it? My turn? Let's see. I do want to talk about the wives.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle and Anne. The cast is insane in this movie. We talked about it last week, but Michelle is incredible as Heath's wife. Anne, I loved as Jake's wife. And I loved talking about Anne Hathaway, I thought their relationship was so fascinating and about how they kind of went in divergent paths where Jake was like struggling to get, manly approval from his father-in-law, and was never getting it until he, used the anger that he had from his, pseudo falling out with Heath to like verbally destroy him during Thanksgiving dinner or whatever dinner that was. How amazing was that scene? And then the camera like shows Anne kind of like grinning that like, oh yeah, he finally did it. I thought that was awesome. And also Michelle, their marriage, she sees him kiss him outside of their house like right away, and they're living she's living through that for years, knowing that that's what he's doing, going on these trips 3 times a year. Can you imagine us all hanging out at a lake house 3 times a year?
I mean, I'd be divorced.
He's going 14 hours to see him too, right? That's how long he said the drive is?
Happening.
Holy
yeah, God, they drove
smokes.
forever to get out of there.
But my heart disintegrated when Michelle saw that. My heart disintegrated when, was it Randy Quaid is using his binoculars?
Oh my gosh.
And sees that. Like I skipped a beat. Also, just the level of kind of despair that Michelle Williams' character had to go through for years, never having that discussion with him until after the divorce, living through that lie for so many years. So, she gets really, I would say, the raw end of the deal, but she ended up going into arguably a better marriage. Who knows? But really difficult to grasp the kind of journeys for the women. I mean, even Anne kind of, I think she knows when Heath calls her, when he explained what Brokeback Mountain was, and she makes that noise on the phone.
Yeah.
When she starts to piece things together. So difficult journey for them in this movie.
Yeah. And it's interesting with just being able to compare the two, because you're getting 2 looks at their Thanksgiving dinners. And both of them have this moment where Jack Twist is confronting his father-in-law and kind of gaining the respect of his wife at like a different level. And then here's Ennis kind of like showing up to his family's, new family with this new dad, new husband. And she confronts him. He blows up, storms out of the house, and just like the tapestry that you get of both of these lives and everybody who's connected to them, and just like what this relationship, how has it affected these 2 households, is really compelling and really well done. The thing that broke my heart really was that so when Ennis's wife Alma sees them together, and then he comes back in to grab. Oh no, it's the next day, I think. He comes in to grab his stuff. And then she says, "Are you forgetting something?" As if, to me, that sounded like she wanted to be acknowledged. Like, are you going to give me a kiss goodbye? Are you going to like acknowledge me? And he's like, "Oh, right." And he just grabs like his tackle box and like runs out. And then you can see like in her eyes, it's like, oh, it's so like, I'm not really anything to him, now that this Jack is in my life. Oh yeah. It's whew.
Megan in chat talks about the cause of death for Jack Twist. Anne answers the phone and explains that, tire exploded on the side of the road. And Ennis has this vision of his nightmare coming true, that Jack was murdered by, homophobes in the middle of nowhere. And Megan says she lied about his cause of death. Do you think that was just a vision of the worst from Heath in that moment? How do you think Jack Twist did die?
I think what we see is Ennis's trauma of what he saw as a child. I won't presume. It's smart how they don't show us Jack. I mean, they show flashbacks, but I do think it's him projecting on what he thinks happened to Jack. I think that his wife was told that story about the tire iron, and I think she was lied to, but I think she didn't believe that lie, because it's interesting how she explains it to Ennis.
She's also pretty like nonplussed, non-emotional about telling the story. Party, you read the short story, so does that?
Yeah, so I think so it's a little different in the short story, but I think they're both subtle in really good ways. So in the short story, when Jack's wife is telling Ennis about it, she gives it to him straight, and then I think Ennis thinks like, oh, but he wonders if it was a tire iron was involved, which is like a tire iron is mentioned with the story that his dad told him when he was a kid, and when they saw the dead the man who was murdered. And then later, I forget what triggers it. Oh, I think it's so when he goes at the final scene to Jack's parents' house, and they tell Ennis that Jack was talking about bringing another guy to work on the ranch. There's a line where it says, and that confirmed for Ennis that basically he was murdered. So at least in Ennis's mind, he's convinced that he was killed by someone.
Right. Yeah. I don't believe that he wasn't murdered. I just think that in the moment, Ennis is having his like traumatic flashbacks and projecting visually on what happened to Jack. And I think it's smart. I think it's smart that we don't see the act leading up to Ennis getting the phone call. I think it's really smart storytelling on both. I'm assuming in the short story and in the film.
I feel sick even thinking about those scenes again now. I mean, even his dad was pretty cold at the house. So I guess it does unfortunately make sense that he probably was murdered. Ugh. Pardo, we on your number 2, I think?
Yeah, I don't really know how to talk about it too much, but I just their relationship, these two characters, I feel like it's just like one of the more complex and undefinable relationships in cinema that I can remember. Just the way they the scrapping and fighting that they have with one another.
I love those scenes.
Yeah, like the way they relate to each other. It's so like, it's powerful, and their performances in it are amazing. I mean, the scenes of them like making out is like incredible, like acting. Like it's just like it's so real and raw, and then them just like starting to punch each other, and like it's just like coming out of them, like all these feelings and the things that have been like pent up and like kept inside of them their whole their whole lives, and just like trying to understand themselves and each other and like what this means for their lives. Like you could write a whole book, I feel, about just like their relationship. It's just, it's really incredible, their performances.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I love them rolling around in the grass. I wrote that down in one of my honorable mentions. You know, it's just like the fun they were having, the relationship that they can have for, 50 weeks out of the year, 49 weeks out of the year where they can't express how they feel. Ugh, beautiful stuff. Danny.
My number 3, we talked on it real quick, is Jack's death. But we can shift into the ending with the shirts and Ennis walking through Jack's old home with his parents, and allowing him to go up to the room, and him finding that shirt with the blood still on it. It's nice to know that there was a emotional, loving side to Jack that we don't see a lot, because Jake's performance as Jack is very, he wants Ennis all the time, and it's apparent. And so that scene is it's really beautiful. Heath's performance, not only like hugging the shirt, but when he opens it up and adjusts it in his trailer at the end with the postcard from Brokeback, it's incredible. And I don't think Heath's performance overshines Jake's, but Jake is really good in this as well. The two of them together, it's really hard to think about anyone else performing these roles as well as they did.
Totally agree. What a moment. What a scene. Going through my list for my number 3. Let's see. Talked about the cast, the loneliness, their first night together. This is the score and the guitar. I think it won an Academy Award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was just kind of like a mental note that I had for myself about men watching these movies. Like, I think there's, and I referenced Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I wasn't sure how to articulate this, but like, I think it's just like obvious that like men are more comfortable watching two women in this kind of a movie than two men. And that probably speaks to me as a younger person. Like, I would probably have zero desire to watch Brokeback, but I am now. And I just wish that maybe anyone listening to this that has made it this far maybe gives that a chance. I mean, you can kind of relate to a group of people that maybe you didn't know when you were younger, but you've met over time and learned more about their experience, and you can learn to appreciate and empathize with them more. I talk about trans stuff on the show a lot, and having those lived experiences, learning from others, is so vital to your personality, your future, other people's future. So go in with an open mind and learn from other people if possible. So that's kind of like my third note of this movie. Pardo, did you give your third? Do we all give our thirds?
Well, just continue what you were saying there. Yeah, I think what's like important about seeing a movie like this too is that, this is just like one story of countless real stories of people who live this and like, or lived entire lives and didn't get this kind of like love, like this true love. So it's so real in that way, where in some ways it can seem maybe far away for a lot of people. And I think that makes it like worth seeing, of just seeing like this is such a real experience for so many. My final thing was, I just really love the faithfulness to the short story in this. There's the dialogue is like directly from the short story. Most of it, I would say like 90% of it is like just like carried over directly. It's pretty amazing. It's like they just used the short story as a screenplay. So I love that aspect of it. I thought that was incredible. And what you were saying about the score, I love how the score is, I think at the beginning of the movie, it feels kind of different as they're on Brokeback Mountain, they're doing their day-to-day work. And it feels like maybe somber, like this, like, and very like relaxing. Yeah. But man, by the end of the movie, hearing that same guitar riff, when he's looking at the shirt, it's so like powerful the way it just like communicates this life and this experience of the characters. So I can understand why it won, because it really does work so well in this. Are we doing star ratings now? I can give my star rating. Yeah. This to me, this is like it's a hard movie to watch because it is like so tragic. But I think it is really great. There's amazing performances in this. So I'm at 4 stars for Brokeback Mountain.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm the same way. This really is a special movie. I don't think I appreciated it when I watched it as much as I do now. And what Proto said, what a loss that we have when it comes to Heath and what he could be doing now and stuff like in movies now. This film, it's really funny because it's so hard to look at this as a love story. It's really tragic to every character involved in this film, the wives, the men, the children. It's almost a very tragic story for all of them. That really, it didn't need to happen, which is also what's wild. But I have this at 5 on Letterboxd, and it's staying at 5 stars.
Also, the art is gorgeous that you did for this movie. I was instantly reminded of Portrait. I love the parallels. Gorgeous art.
Use the same palette as the Portrait of a lady.
How about him having the horses on the back of his pickup truck? Did you catch that?
Gosh.
That truck, my God, I didn't even know it was possible to just throw two horses in the back of a pickup truck. Yeah, I don't know. I was more emotional writing my notes than I was watching the movie. Kind of formulating and thinking about my experience sitting there with these characters, wishing that he would have that conversation. Like, I was legit angry when his daughter was driving away. When like, I was like, oh, is this the moment? And then it's like 2 seconds later, she's driving away.
Yeah.
So I'm at 4.5 stars for Brokeback Mountain. Fantastic performances. Visuals are incredible. And it's an experience that I hope most people have probably seen Brokeback Mountain. So I'm one of the last people ever to see it. So I'm glad I finally did.
Welcome.
Next week, The Notebook. We'll see how that goes. I'm finally checking that off my watch list.
Goodness.
But we have some voice mails to get to. I think at least one. Host of the Will Run For podcast has left a VM this week, Ren Mike D. And you can leave us a VM or a letter each week at 70mmpod.com. There's links in there for you to easily do that. So let's hear from Ren Mike.
Hey, 70 millimeter. It's Michael. So I wanted to leave feedback for this because Brokeback Mountain is probably my favorite movie and what I consider maybe the best movie of the early 2000s. From the way Ang Lee shot it, just those opening scenes where we see the mountains of Wyoming, but not too much of them, but we see them out there with the herds of sheep, and just how they are out there on their own and alone. And then we contrast it when later on he's with, when Ennis goes to Jack's boyhood home, and just how stark and barren it is. And it's almost like from another time, even though it's supposed to be the 60s, it still feels almost older than that, almost like his family is stuck in the 1800s and still, homesteading or something. It's just so many amazing scenes in it. So much, just the acting's amazing. The cinematography is amazing. And just that end scene when you just get Ennis staring out the window after he sees the shirt and the postcard, and he's not out in the mountains anymore. He's just in his, he's just a farmhand or ranch hand or whatever he's doing at that point in some oil farm or corn farm or whatever it was at the end. I forget what it was. And his daughter's going off to have a life, and he's just stuck in this trailer alone until the end. So just a beautiful, simple movie, and hopefully it's shown love tonight. I know Danny loves it, so fingers crossed.
If you're into running, check out the Will Run For podcast that Ren Mike does. It's a member of the Tape Deck network of podcasts, by the way, which we don't often talk about.
That is so true. I think in the short story, I feel like communicates much better, that it feels older. There's like a lot of great description that like Ennis doesn't have socks or underwear, and like, his like their boots have holes in them. It just feels like these guys are dirt poor. They have like nothing when they meet each other. That was one of my other notes. The violence against denim in this movie. It's unreal the amount of
what
fights.
What kind of violence against denim? I didn't notice any.
Oh, and they're just grabbing each other. I mean, they're just like, they got the denim jackets. They're just like ripping each other apart.
That's love. Yeah.
It's pure.
How about that fishing spot they had right before they went skinny dipping? Can you imagine camping there for a week?
Anywhere.
Fudge.
Gosh.
Holy moly. The average rating for Brokeback Mountain, according to V'ger, the supercomputer who loves movies that Proto created, 4.17 on V'ger.
Thing.
Let's see what the average rating for the Notebook is. V'ger, calculate Notebook. Oh my God. 3.5 stars.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Big week.
3.75. Sorry, correction. Kev says Proto just won the comment contest for violence against denim.
Yes.
So is Casey going to pick a winner for comments of the night?
I think she stayed around.
Casey,
I don't think she knew she had that.
Casey, sorry, you have to choose now. Officially, choose our comment of the. While we think about that, let's see. Sarah has a review for the Notebook. I'm a sucker for romance when I'm drunk.
Oh.
Diamond, I want that Noah and Allie love though. Mackenzie, didn't realize how much nostalgia I had for this film until I found myself weeping at the end. Tyler, I love this movie. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not a lot of letterbox logs for the Notebook among the village, to be honest. Oh, Casey does. Okay, hold on.
Open the envelope.
Kurtz for the GIF.
Oh, Kurtz wins the Movies Anywhere Valentine's Day bundle.
What was the GIF?
Kurtz, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed the Notebook.
Yes.
Brokeback Mountain again. P.S. I love you. And Love Actually from our friends at Movies Anywhere. All right, so that's our first foray as we prep for Valentine's Day. Next week is the Notebook. We just posted 2 episodes to the 70mm vault.
Stupid ass.
Pardo, do you have any closing thoughts for this week as we look forward for the Notebook?
Oh man, I wanted to. I took a paragraph from the short story. Should I read it? It's about the shirt at the end. I just thought it was so beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of beautiful lines in it. But so this is how it pretty much ends. The shirt seemed heavy until he saw there was another shirt inside it. The sleeves carefully worked down inside Jack's sleeves. It was his own plaid shirt, lost, he thought, long ago in some damn laundry. His dirty shirt, the pocket ripped, buttons missing, stolen by Jack and hidden here inside Jack's own shirt. The pair like two skins, one inside the other, two in one. He pressed his face into the fabric and breathed in slowly through his mouth and nose, hoping for the faintest smoke and mountain sage and salty, sweet stink of Jack. But there was no real scent, only the memory of it, the imagined power of Brokeback Mountain, of which nothing was left but what he held in his hands.
We'll see everybody next week for The Notebook. $70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large Dale_A. Transcripts provided by Sophie Shin and music composed by Cinematric. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.